The Diablo series lore has always been centered on war. War between angels and demons, war between light and dark, war to save humanity, or at least your soul from being devoured by what comes from the burning hells. It's present in all of the lore, the cutscenes, and that sense of conflict and urgency should be a paramount undertone to the action of the gameplay. Are we winning this conflict? Will the courageous be able to take back the cities of Sanctuary and rid the mortal threat once and for all? Or are more and more of the villages and people covered in the blood of the fallen, shrieking one last cry as their eternal soul is pulled into the darkness? Is there another powerful Nephilim that will rise and take their place at the front of the war effort, and in one resounding voice will cry out that the light begins here and pushes back the darkness forever? I'm Raziel Prime, and I invite you to stay a while and listen. In the previous videos of this series, we've discussed how the mechanics surrounding loot are integral to connecting the gamer to their character and providing a sense of achievement. With all of the time and hard work invested into finding the right build, the gear to augment it, there is little left for the character to do in the current game of the Diablo franchise but to climb the seasonal ladder and earn a higher rank. In the previous installment of the series, Diablo 2 Lord of Destruction, characters were severely limited in end-game content. Their main goal was just to do magic farming runs to find gear to either trade for their sought-after loot or begin a new character and try their hand at another adventure. So we can conclude that the need for a dynamic and replayable end-game experience is vital to an ARPG game. The Diablo franchise in many ways invented the ARPG genre of gaming, and other talented developers have come along to create their own stories, systems, and gameplay to hopefully iterate and evolve the genre. One of the most notable and major changes to the ARPG paradigm came from Chris Wilson and the development team behind Path of Exile, made by Grinding Gear Games. Chris, a self-identified avid fan of Diablo 2, set out to make a game that, quote, "we would want to play," and innovated on the genre with their very complex passive tree system. However, they set a new foundation for end-game content in the form of their mapping system. To give a brief overview, maps are items that drop from monsters once you've hit a certain high level, which is usually toward the end of the campaign content. These maps are randomized zones that are a one-off occurrence, and once you've killed the boss of the zone or have exceeded the available portals to enter and leave it, the map closes and is gone forever. Another one of its base zone type can be made, but it will not be the same layout or have the same content. This is because the map can be modified, just like an item can in Diablo. The players can use currency in the game to add buffs to the map that increase the challenge of it, but also increase the reward. Within the map system itself, there are tiers of difficulty, with each map tier becoming harder to complete. Once the player has climbed that ladder, they face off against the final boss and thus complete the endgame purpose of the map system. Other new games that are coming to the ARPG scene have taken this idea of a map system and have refined it with their own unique voice, just as Grinding Gear Games did with Path of Exile, pulling inspiration from Diablo 2. Diablo 4 has a chance to evolve this element to ARPG gaming once again, and set a new standard for others to iterate on. To do that, we must look at the core of what the mapping system does. On the surface, yes, it provides end-game content, and Rifting and Greater Rifts were the equivalent of that for Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls. A bit deeper of a definition to why these systems were put into place was monster density. The players needed a guaranteed zone to go into that had a good amount of monster density so they could slay and look for loot. But if we go a little deeper into the root effect of what these maps do, we find that it really gives the player a chance to simply choose their own adventure. They use items they find from killing monsters to craft an adventure experience, one tailored specifically to what they think their character can survive. If they are right, then they are rewarded with achievement, loot, and maybe another map of a slightly higher difficulty. If they fly too close to the sun and fail the map experience, Well, then at least they know where their character stands at the current level of gear and investment of time. To iterate for the Diablo franchise, I want to go back to that simple definition. The player chooses their own adventure. I also want to touch back on that constant of war in the Diablo series. In Diablo 3, when you entered into Act 3 for the first time and saw the siege that was underway at Bastion's Keep, that sense of ever-present war became the only thing you knew of the story. Walls shaking, wounded or dying soldiers lying about, the villagers asking you to go into the fray and save a comrade, save a family member, and all the while, Tyrael urging you like a general to go forth and turn the tide.
Light the signal fires, and show these soldiers that we are not yet defeated. Salvation has arrived. Go, you are needed below.
Tyrael will not fail these people, I know it.
For me, that's when the story really began to take on a momentum and energy. I knew my character's purpose in that story. I have to fight through to iterate. I have to stop Asmodan, and while doing so, our party is betrayed, and now I have to ascend to the heavens and fight for light itself and stop the darkness from becoming eternal. Act 1 was a refresher of where the story has come from. Act 2 was... well, I can't recall because anytime I think of Act 2, all I can hear is, "Look, more hidden footprints." Act 3 was war. War against the demons, war against the darkness, and I was a powerful hero that reassured the hundreds of wounded, dying soldiers that there is a reason to have hope, and I will lead us to it. That was the experience that I wanted to feel from this powerful story that is ever present in each game. I wanted to be a part of that struggle to victory. The new endgame of Diablo 4 should follow that same feeling and give the players a chance to choose their own adventure. And here's how I propose it can be done. Based on the current bounty system in Diablo 3 Rebirth of Souls, I propose a change to the gameplay foundation. Once you have completed the campaign of the game and lived the story, you then will have access to adventure mode. However, it will now be referred to as the war effort. When you begin this new journey, you start in Act 1 and the various zones represented by waypoints will be active. Each of these zones will have a mission to complete, similar to how many bounties are now in the current game. These missions can range from rescue, collection, survive waves of monsters, to new experiences like escort missions, capture the flag, or tower defense. The final boss of that act, in the current case of the game, the Butcher, cannot be accessed until 6 missions have been completed out of the available missions and zones. So you choose which missions you can go on. And your choice is based on 2 critical elements. Number 1, what type of mission do you want to play or think you can handle? And number 2, the effect your involvement on the missions will have on the war effort. The first mission you choose is just the mission itself, like this example of the mission available at the Northern Highlands, escort villagers back to New Tristram. Once the mission is complete, your war efforts will augment the Butcher with a new ability during the final fight. Word of your deeds travels fast, and now all of the other available missions will have attached to them 2 augments, one of light and one of darkness. The darkness augment will make the mission harder, and the augment of light will be your reward for accomplishing the mission. As you survey the Act 1 map and the effect your efforts have on the war effort, you can choose missions that you think you can handle. Or, if the reward of light is powerful enough to make other missions possible, you might accept the current challenge of the darkness ahead. As you can see on the map, the mission at the Cathedral Level 2 is also an escort mission, like the first mission you just completed. However, now, it has its 2 augments of light and darkness. A villager will betray you, and gain 25,000 life per second for 5 minutes. Will a villager just turn on you with a pitchfork and commit some lame attack? Or will a villager transform into a demon or something much, much worse? Can you protect the villagers from the monsters that already surround you, but now from the unknown enemy in your ranks that will strike at any point within the mission? If you are successful, then the increase in life per second as your reward can make other potential missions possible for your character to achieve. However, your war efforts have now added a second darkness augment to all of the available missions. You can see this effect on the mission available at the Caverns of Arene. With 2 darkness augments, this mission is a difficult challenge. However, your reward of life per second from the second mission will help you face the battle ahead. And remember, due to your influence on the war effort, the darkness surrounding the Butcher has become stronger with each mission you achieve. The 6 required missions add to the darkness of the final battle with the Butcher, but thus make the rewards greater for defeating him and allow you to progress to the next act. But your effects on the war effort move forward with you as your reputation precedes you. Act 2 will begin with the boss Belial receiving 2 random bonus darkness augments. When you complete the 6 required missions in Act 2 to face Belial, he will possess 8 total augments of darkness, 6 from the missions and 2 from the start of the act. Act 3 Asmodan will start with 4 darkness augments, and when you stare down those giant nipple rings, he will have 10 total augments of darkness. When you stand victorious over Asmodan, 6 augments flow to Diablo himself, so that when you complete the Act 4 missions, you will face a boss that has 12 augments of darkness that make him truly the Lord of Terror. If your light, your gear, and your game sense is strong enough, you can slay Diablo and save Sanctuary. If not, then your Nephilim glory returns you to New Tristram in Act 1, and you have to engage in the war effort all over again. Facing off against the Lord of Terror is an event of awesome, raw, primal energy and power that calls back to the formation of the universe itself and the source of all creation, Anu. These powers are pure. How they are wielded in reality is what defines them as good or evil. So during the battle with Diablo, a very rare occurrence can take place. A rip in the fabric of reality can occur and take on 2 ultimate forms, the Dark Portal or the Portal of Light. These portals can only be on our plane of existence for a short while, and stepping through them is a choice of adventure you must make again. Do you stay and face the Lord of Terror that has been augmented by your war efforts, or leave the battle behind to face a new encounter? To step through the Dark Portal, your current fight with Diablo will be ended. You will find yourself on level 1 of the Pandemonium Plane. You must move through this region of darkness and face off against all of the prime and lesser primevals of the Diablo franchise's past. Andariel, Mephisto, Baal, and the hosts of others await you in the silence. Their powers are beyond compare, and the struggle of your Nephilim power will not be trying to stay alive, but to keep from slipping into madness. Time is not on your side, because the madness is constantly fighting to consume your mind and your soul. You must move quickly from level to level, and the riches you find along the way must be a choice as well, for there is only so much you can carry under the weight of all of the approaching darkness. If you survive and slay the host of the burning hells, then you will face Diablo again. His powers will be different, his augmentations will be different, and you must stand and fight, or be lost forever. With each boss encounter in the Dark Portal, you'll have a chance to attain their soul as a crafting material drop. When you've gathered all of their souls, they can be used with other crafting materials to augment your gear into ancient or primal status. As you face the various game bosses during the missions themselves, they will have a higher chance to drop their unique crafting materials associated to them. As mentioned in episode 2 of this series, this is how a player could attain the crafting material of Adria's blood, if they were successful in the mission to defeat her as a part of the war effort. To step through the Portal of Light, is to step into the vessel of the cosmos itself. There, the energy of Anu can be infused into your character, or you can choose to use it to bless your gear. And once completed, Anu will return you to New Tristram and send you back into the war effort with the newly formed powers of Nephilim that the darkness has never encountered. This system of endgame content returns the player to the story and lore of this amazing series and places the fate of Sanctuary in their hands. The player can design their own experience through each of these missions and battles, taking ownership of the game. The development team can consistently add new missions to the available pool for each zone through various patches throughout the year. The stakes are high, the player agency is vast, and the story of war becomes once again the backdrop to which we traverse the game of Diablo. Thank you for listening to and watching this video. I welcome your input and ideas in the comments below, and if you're keen to go on a future adventure with me, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, and I look forward to the journey ahead. This is Raziel, and stay safe in the world of Sanctuary.